Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Young Justice Outsiders episode 11. So, last time we got Cyborg, or technically Victor Stone. He is not yet Cyborg, but we're definitely setting up for that. And we also continued the search for Tara Markov and some training stuff. So, yeah, it's interesting. We're definitely bringing Cyborg into the mix here. Is he going to work with the Outsiders? Is something else going to happen? I don't know. We're just going to have to find out. But I do want to talk real quick about this series. And I think I mentioned this last time. But one of the biggest downfalls of Young Justice for me, despite everything great about it, one of its big downfalls is the time skips, the character introductions, so on and so forth. Season 1 was as good as it was because it was pretty simple, all things considered. It had one set of characters, really, and it was all about them, like, growing into the hero role. No longer just being sidekicks, but becoming true heroes as members of the team of Young Justice. And with each subsequent season, we just get more and more characters added. Not just part of the team, but just in general, who are relevant characters here and there. And with these time skips, there'll just be random characters just thrown in after the time skips, and it's like, it's very hard to keep track of it all. Because there'll just be so many more new characters at that point. There'll be so many more new additions, and just the factions will change, the team ups will change, the specifics, and it's just like, it's hard to keep track of. Even 11 episodes into this season now, well, technically 10. We haven't actually started 11 yet. I'm still having a hard time keeping track of who's where and how many are there. And I just feel like it could be more simple. Like, they could have more of this core group and focus on that, like they did in season 1, and even to a degree in season 2. But now it's just like all over the place. And there's still sort of a core group with our main team that we're following. Brion and Halo and all of them, led by Nightwing and Superboy and all. But there's also all these other groups and all these other characters that we constantly see pop up. And it's just, and there's characters that we're not seeing as much, at least more recently in this season, since I started it back up, I guess you could say. Like, where's Beast Boy? Where is Static? And so on and so forth. And it's like, there's just too many characters. And because of it, certain ones don't get enough attention. And some of them are just kind of throwaways. They don't matter. They're just there. They don't actually, like, they aren't important to the story. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing because they could be great. But they're just, like, there just to, like, oh, let's throw in this hero because that hero is popular. But let's not actually have them do anything. And it feels disappointing. And it's been one of my biggest, if not my biggest, complaint about the series, honestly. Especially with this season. And again, there's a lot of great stuff they're doing for Young Justice Outsiders. There's a lot of great stories they're telling, a lot of great stuff, but at the same time, there's also just certain things that just aren't that great. And it's important to acknowledge both the good and bad with any series. The problem here is that the bad has been affecting my enjoyment. And that's not always the case. There's a lot of cases where the bad of a series or whatnot will just maybe hinder things a little, but not to any notable degree. It'll just be a little annoying to have to worry about. And with some series that are more episodic, it's usually like the bad is relegated to, oh, some episodes are just bad. Like with MLP, it's like some episodes are just bad. But when it gets really good, it makes it worth it. In this case, it's not really episodic. There's a lot of ongoing plot lines and they're consistently moving. And so it comes down to more of an all over thing. Does the issues affect my overall enjoyment of these main plot lines going on, of the story, of the characters, of everything that's happening? And it may sound silly to some of you for such an issue to affect my enjoyment, but it does. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I can explain exactly why it does, but it does. The point is that with each season, I found that I enjoy Young Justice less and less. And it's for these reasons, because of the time skips, because of all the characters introduced and how just more bloated it feels because of it. It feels like there's too much going on at once, especially in this season. There's too many separate groups of characters. There's too many characters who I want to touch back up on, but we probably won't, at least not for a while, because they just keep introducing new characters and then just stop doing anything with them. And maybe that's just a me issue. I acknowledge that. It could just be me. But the point is, this is a reaction channel, and my enjoyment of a series has to matter. I started this series back up after 2 years because, well, one, I know a lot of you wanted me to continue it, and two, I wanted to continue it. Because there's a lot I enjoy about this series. But watching it again also reminded me of the negatives. And like I said before, like I think last week or maybe the week before or something, like I'm always at that point where I get to recording this and it's one of the last things I want to record each week. Everything else is much more interesting and fun and entertaining. And so when it comes to this, it's like it's the one thing I really am not as invested in recording each week. But then, as I've said as well, I end up watching it and I end up enjoying it most of the time. But those issues are still there and they still like affect the things. And the only thing that bringing in all these characters and all these different sides to things allows is for the in-universe missions to have multiple angles, basically. For there to be multiple angles for missions to happen from, different groups of characters can do missions while others are like training, and it's just like that's basically it. That's all it really amounts to. Like for example, in episode or two ago, a few episodes ago, I don't remember how many episodes ago it was, but the episode that had all those other female heroes in it. You know, when they were doing like the all the different groups were doing their own thing, all part of the same mission. There was the one group with like Whisper, I think it was, um, and the others, and those characters. It's like I question. It's like have they been in the series before? But I was also in my mind questioning, will they be in here again? Do they even matter? And I shouldn't be questioning that with characters that pop up. Like, yeah, a lot of shows are going to have their minor side roles. But this isn't a minor side role. When a character just pops up basically once and then doesn't have relevance for the rest of a series, that's not just a minor side role. That's basically nothing short of a cameo. And it's ridiculous. So I'm I'm just gonna say the reason I'm saying all of this is because, like I said, it's getting to the point where I'm starting to lose enjoyment of this series. It's getting to the point where I don't want to end up recording this each week, where I put it off, or I have to force myself to record this, but only after I've recorded most of the other stuff that I enjoy more. And I'm going to continue giving this a shot because, especially since we just brought it back after 2 years. But I'm telling you right now, and I'm making sure you understand that I might be dropping this, or at the very least, I might be taking another break. It won't be as long this time, obviously. If I do, if I did take a break, it would just be like for the course of one show or something. Um, and the problem is, I don't know what it's going to end up being. I don't know when it's going to end up being. Basically, at this point, it's going to be on an episode by episode basis, depending on how I feel after each episode. How I feel like the positives are balancing out the negatives. And there's certain plot points as well that just feel really dragged out this season, so that's not helping either. Like I really thought they would have found Tara by now. But either way, either way, I do want to just make it clear that even if I find that I can't continue and I do drop this series, that doesn't mean I find the series altogether bad. It just means that I'm not enjoying reacting to it and I don't want to anymore. And if that's the case, then I might finish the season on my own time and maybe do a end of the season review, cover everything. Um, but right now I don't know, and I'm not gonna try to guess how that's gonna all go. Um, but yeah, I'm letting you know that ahead of time that I have been progressively more and more getting less interested in reacting to this. And so, like I said, we are kind of on an episode by episode basis right now. Kind of just whenever and if ever this really ends up just bothering me too much to where I feel like I can't continue, um, I will drop it. And honestly, hopefully that never happens. Hopefully it ends up surprising me and ends up just improving drastically. That would be the best case scenario. And I would love that to happen. But like I said, it's getting to the point where I'm not, I'm having to force myself to react to it each week. And I don't want to do that. I never want to have to force myself to react to something. I should be excited to react to something. So, yeah, I do apologize one way or the other. Um, and again, it might just be me, but it's an issue for me, and I can't deny that. So we'll see how we feel after the end of this episode. Hopefully, it turns things around for me, and we'll continue from there. I'll let you know, but in the meantime, we should actually start the reaction. We should actually get to that. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked it up in between because I knew the name Harper Row. And this isn't really a spoiler because comics and whatnot. I mean, I don't know what she's going to end up doing in this series as well. So, but I just looked up like who she is in the comics and stuff. And Harper Row is Bluebird. She's a member of the Bat family, who decided to take up her own hero identity rather than just be another Robin. So yeah, I knew the name. I knew the name. I know of her before and everything. So yeah, I knew I recognized it. And also, she's the same voice actress as Halo. So that's interesting that they actually have the same voice actress, and there was that like name confusion scene. So this was a pretty good episode. I won't argue that. But I want to be very transparent here from the start. They're bringing in more new characters with Harper, with Vic from last episode, and now into this episode, and coming to, I guess, join with the team and everything now. And it's just like they just keep bringing in new characters, and unfortunately, not getting to the point of things. Like, this is episode 11, and the entire Markov thing has been a thing since, I believe, episode 1, or at least one of the first episodes. And I feel like we should have at least gotten further in the search for Tara by this point. I feel like it should be further along, but we're just having other stuff. That, yes, is going to be relevant, of course. Of course, Vic is going to be relevant to everything. So it's not like this episode was completely pointless or anything, but at the same time, I feel like we didn't need to introduce Victor. We didn't need to introduce Cyborg. I like Cyborg as a character and everything. I like his backstory and everything, but we didn't need to introduce him. It just feels like another character. Another character being brought in, and who knows how long he's going to stay relevant. And the fact that concerns me, the fact that I'm worried about that is it's very telling for this series. The fact that I'm worried that he's going to become irrelevant before too long is not a good thing to instantly cross my mind. And I like what they've been doing with him. I like that the explosion that caused him to have to become Cyborg was purely accidental in this version. I like that it showed the gruesomeness of his injuries. I like that he lost control thanks to the father box at first and had to be helped by Violet. I like these little touches they're doing, but it just concerns me with these choices that it's going to just be adding in more and more and more instead of focusing on who we've already got. We're just going to keep getting more characters and more heroes and more villains and stuff, and it's not going to, like, it's not going to wrap things up with who we've already got. We just keep piling them on. And then we have, like, with the story, with the main story, we have episodes where it it's just doing that. And it's not actually progressing the main story. The only actual notable progress we had in this episode was Brion learning to be a little more patient. Oh boy. Um and the entire stuff with Violet and Fredbug with two G's going to school and everything, it's like, why? Why do we need this? Like, is this important for any other reason than introducing Violet or Harper Row? Probably not. That's probably what it's here for, to introduce another new character. And I know I might sound ridiculous or salty or whatever, but it's like, this is legitimately the problem I was talking about in the pre-thoughts. Just constantly piling in new characters. You can have a lot of characters in a show and still handle it right as long as you still focus on the right ones, on the ones that should be focused on pretty much the entire time. Ruby does this amazingly. Ruby has so many characters, has a shit ton of characters. And yet, because it knows how to focus on its characters and doesn't just like add in a bunch of new ones of varying importance to the main plot constantly, it allows the side characters and whatnot to be side characters. And you have shows like MLP that do this a lot as well, and so on and so forth. But with this series, they're trying to make everybody relevant, and then they just drop them just like that. It's like, oh, let's bring in this character. Let's bring in Beast Boy. Let's make him relevant. Let's give an actual story to him on how his mother was the Hello Megan girl or whatever. But then let's not actually do anything with Beast Boy. Let's just drop him off the side of the map. We don't care about him anymore. It's just like, come on, really? This just seems. It just seems really poorly thought out. And I hate to say that because the series is, in a lot of ways, so good. It has great action, great humor, great drama. But then it's like, even these characters who we've been following since season one, it's just like, I don't even recognize them anymore. Nightwing here, Robin from season one. It's like he's barely the same character. And yeah, I get it. He's grown up and everything, but he has very little relevance other than just being a mentor. And he's so little, he has such little focus on him that it's sad. And I get the entire idea that this could be like, oh, the new generation and everything. But it's like, characters like him and Superboy and Megan, these were the characters that I was focused on with this series, that I was invested in. bringing in new characters and just kind of like letting the old ones kind of just fade away into the background mostly as minor side characters is not what I wanted this series to do. And it's not what I expected this series to do based on how it was set up before. It felt like it was going to be a series about that team. And yeah, them growing up and them changing, and maybe a couple new members being added in. But that team would be the core of the series, and they're not. They were the core of season 1. A little bit of season 2, but even in season 2, they started to fade into like just lesser status. And now in season 3, it's not about them anymore, and it's just I don't like that. And like I said, with the other stuff as well, maybe it's just me. But because they keep adding in so many new characters, they have to pick and choose. And unfortunately, they're picking and choosing characters who, while are definitely interesting and likable and fun, like Violet and Scavenger, at the same time, I'm not as invested in them. I'm just not. So maybe it is just me, but I just feel like this series as a whole, Young Justice, has really went in a direction that it was not set up to go in. And I understand that originally it had been canceled and that this was the kind of return for the series and everything, but that's not an excuse. I mean, actually, that is what it is. It's just an excuse. It doesn't actually. They didn't need to do it that way. They chose to write it that way, and they chose to do another time skip, which irritates me because again, they just keep adding in more new characters and just keep splitting up focuses and stuff. And lately, it seems like most of the focus has been on this one specific group, Brion and Scavenger and all of that. But it's like, okay. And also, why isn't Brion going to the school? You can't say it's because he's a prince of Markovia, so he'd be too easily spotted. Well, they could change Forager's appearance. Also, I think I called him Scavenger a little bit ago. They can change Forager's appearance. Why can't they change his? They could easily make it so that no one would recognize him. Easily. So why isn't he going? Because of his attitude and his hot-headedness? That's not necessarily an excuse either. Because Forager and Violet clearly do not know how to socially interact. So they're not going to do well in terms of that. Honestly, Brion would fit in a lot more. His angst is actually a lot more typical teenager. Um, and the only idea would be that Brion is supposedly is too old and looks too old, but honestly, I don't think he does compared to how we see the other characters drawn and everything. I don't think he looks that much older than a teenager. I don't even know how old he is supposed to be. I could probably look that up. um, but the thing is, it's just maybe it is just me. But like I said in the pre-thoughts, even if that's the case, he's 17. So yeah, he could very easily have gone. I just feel like with what we are being given and everything, and just constantly adding more and more and more, it just, at least to me, feels very, very off. I'm not a fan of how they're doing it, just admittedly. And there's so much they could do to fix it too. But at this point, I don't think they're going to. Because Vic's now into things. Harper Row might become a member of the team. It's just like, oh, what next? uh, so now comes the big question I'm sure you're wondering, with what I said in the pre-thoughts about whether or not I would drop this show if I felt like it it got to that point where I just basically couldn't handle it anymore. Where I felt like it was just not fun and entertaining to watch anymore. And this is the complicated thing about it. Because it's like, it's also like I said, when I watch the episodes, I'm enjoying them to a degree. But at the same time, my mind does go towards kind of the future. And just overall, my thoughts on how this series is going to go and what all of these decisions are going to do compared to what these kind of decisions have already done with this series. And the fact that we not only have this, even with the big plot, not only have this entire thing with Tara and trying to find and rescue her, but we also have Dark Side behind the scenes and Granny Goodness and everything, and it's just like they're doing way too much. I mean, we haven't even been back into this for too long. Like, let me check here. I want to check this because we haven't been back in this for too long. That I think is overall important. Let me just in case anything starts playing, I don't want you guys to hear it because I don't want any possible copyright issues. So we started up again with episode 7 back at the end of May. So it's been just under a month because it was May 28th and it's now June 22nd. It's been just under a month since we started this back up. This is our 5th video. And again, starting this back up was just because I hadn't seen it in 2 years. I know you guys wanted me to get back to it. I wanted to get back to it. Even despite having all of those issues in my mind. Because I hoped it would get better and I hoped I'd be into it after just not checking it out for 2 years. And at first I was. But as these episodes have gone along, even though we haven't reacted to too much, it's just gotten more difficult to reconcile with the issues, with my problems with this series. It has so much good about it, but it also has bad, notable bad, that at least for me hurts the overall enjoyment of watching it and hurts the overall desire to continue watching and continue recording, to even get to the recording each week. And as I said in the pre-thoughts, I don't want it to come to that. I don't want a series, no matter what it is, to feel like it's a chore to react to it, to feel like I'm forcing myself to sit down and watch it each week. But that's what this series is becoming for me. And unfortunately, you kind of have to take the proper steps when that kind of thing happens. Like, as much as I would love to continue this for you guys, it wouldn't be fun at all for me. And it would just get me more and more just out of it and less invested and honestly upset with the series. If I forced myself to continue, I would just end up resenting it, and it would sap away my energy for other things. And it would probably hurt the channel as a whole. And I don't want that to happen. So, as much as it pains me, I think I have to drop this. It's just, with all of the issues that I mentioned, it's just not it's not fun to watch. It's not something that I really feel like I have value in watching anymore. And it really, really does suck, believe me. This isn't something I just choose to do without really thinking about it. I've been thinking about this for weeks now, honestly. And especially over this last week. It's just, they're doing way too much, bringing in way too many characters, and just not doing it well enough to keep those problems from peeking their ugly heads out from the cracks. So, yeah, unfortunately, we are dropping this. We are dropping Young Justice Outsiders. And I'm going to try to watch this on my own time. Knowing me, though, I might procrastinate on that, but I'm going to try, and I'll probably make a video once I finish it that'll just go over my overall thoughts on it, how it went post being dropped. That's my plan, at least. That way I can come back and tell you basically whether I was right or wrong. But I don't see it going any other way at this point with just how everything has been with this series. Like I had said, it seems like every season I get less and less invested in it because they keep just adding in way too much and taking away the things that I was invested in. And they don't give me time to be invested in anything else. So for those who aren't watching this, I'll probably have to make a video explaining um, all the gist of it. But for those of you who are watching and everything, I apologize for those of you who really love this series and wanted to see me continue reacting to it. But I can't force myself to do that, and I shouldn't force myself to do that if it's just going to take a negative toll on me and the channel. I really hope you understand, and I need to move on from this and get to something that will be better for me, and that's something that I can enjoy more and just get into more. Because while almost everything else on this channel that I'm reacting to right now are things that I'm really invested in and really heavily like enjoying, it's just I need something to just fill this spot to fill this void and kind of get back into the swing of things at this point. Because otherwise, it's going to drag me down. It will. So I'll be making a separate video officially, like, on the channel announcing that I'm dropping this. And I will also announce what will be replacing it in that video. So please check out the other video to see what is going to be replacing Young Justice Outsiders. And I'll eventually change the channel banner as well to reflect that. But that video will be up probably same day, yeah. Probably today. In the meantime, I once again apologize for all of you who are big fans of this series and everything. It's changed from being the series that I did love as well. So thank you for hopefully understanding. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.